The moment I woke up in this new life, as the man who married the Stratton heiress, a system in my head lit up with notification. My wife was in a hotel suite with Destiny's golden boy, and my pre-written role was to swallow my pride, endure the humiliation, and eventually win her over. But as I picture the horns already starting to sprout from my head, I made a different choice. I called the cops and reported them for soliciting illegal services. The second the police broke down the door, I knew I had personally shredded the script this world had prepared for me. I couldn't wait to see if Destiny's golden boy could still flash that winning smile when the story was no longer his to write. The call was mine. The report was simple. In the presidential suite at the Ritz-Carlton, a high-level corporate deal was being sealed with favors of a personal nature. Standing outside the suite, listening to the muffled shouts of police and a woman's startled cry, the alarm from the system in my head was a piercing shriek. Warning. Host actions are severe deviation from the main plot line. Cease immediately or suffer narrative backlash. Endure. If you endure tonight once the protagonist, Leo Vance, secures his deal with Sophia Stratton, you will gain the forgiving heart, aura, and ultimately win her affection. A cold smirk played on my lips. Win her affection? By accepting my role as the world's most pathetic cuckold, a lapdog grateful for scraps? Crack. The heavy door was yanked open from the inside, and a wave of expensive perfume and red wine washed over me. Behind me, cameras flashed relentlessly. Reporters I'd tipped off anonymously. I wanted this to blow up, so big that not even God himself could bury it. My eyes cut past the shoulders of a few NYPD officers to the scene inside. It wasn't the sordid picture I'd half expected. My wife, Sophia Stratton, was sitting elegantly on a plush sofa, her designer evening gown making her look like an ice queen carved from a glacier. She held a half-empty glass of wine, her expression, after the initial shock, settling into a mask of cold appraisal. Across from her, the so-called golden boy, Leo Vance, was also in a tailored suit, his face a mixture of shock and fury as he argued with the police. Do you have any idea who I am? Who the hell gave you the authority to barge in here? When his eyes found me at the door, they filled with a venomous hatred. I knew him. He was a nobody who, through some mysterious stroke of luck, had shot up to become a rising star in the business world in just 6 months. He was also the man who, in the original script, was about to make a fool of me before ultimately destroying my family's company and seizing control of the Stratton empire. Sophia's gaze fell on me next. In her stunning eyes, there was no anger, just a profound, withering contempt, the kind you reserve for something you'd scrape off your shoe, as if to say, "You are truly useless." I gave a casual shrug and flashed a grin at the lead officer. "Officer, I have reason to believe my wife is cheating on me. With him. That guy right there. Soliciting a married woman." The words hung in the air, plunging the room into a dead silence. Leo's face turned a deep, mottled purple. Sophia's hand, holding the wine glass, tightened so hard her knuckles went white, the trembling liquid betraying her inner turmoil. Even the cops looked uncomfortable, but they remained professional. Everyone's coming down to the station to answer some questions. Just then, Leo's phone rang at the worst possible moment. He answered, and a roar erupted from the other end. "Leo, what the hell are you doing? The cops are in your room. Pictures are already all over Twitter. The South Side development deal? It's off. Canceled." The call ended. Leo's face was ashen, and I saw it. A faint, almost invisible wisp of black smoke drifting away from the top of his head. So that was the system's warning? A disruption of his luck? It felt damn good. The smile on my face widened. I ignored the system's increasingly frantic alarms and Sophia's gaze, which felt sharp enough to flay me alive. Watching Leo get escorted out by the police like a kicked dog, only one thought echoed in my mind. Tearing up the script, Step 1. Complete. The Stratton family had pull. In less than 24 hours, Sophia was home, completely unscathed. I was sitting in the living room of our sprawling mansion, sipping tea with deliberate slowness, when she stormed in like a blizzard, flanked by 2 bodyguards in black suits. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Slap! The sharp crack of the blow echoed through the cavernous space. My head snapped to the side, my cheek burning. I didn't flinch. I just slowly turned back, my tongue probing the inside of my tender cheek, and met her eyes with a calm gaze. She was breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling, that perfect face a mask of frost and fury. "Ethan, you useless, incompetent fool, who can't do anything right except screw things up." Her voice trembled with rage. "Do you have any idea how long I've been setting up tonight's meeting? Do you know that the recording device in that room had all the evidence I needed to prove Leo Vance was embezzling from Stratton Corporation? Because of your stupidity and your pathetic jealousy, it's all ruined. The police confiscated the recorder as evidence." "I'll never get it back now," she seethed, pointing a finger at my face, every word a shard of ice. "I used to think you were just mediocre. I never imagined you were this monumentally stupid. You threw away my one chance to destroy him, all for your pathetic male pride." I said nothing, just watched her performance. I knew this was only the beginning. Sure enough, one of her bodyguards handed her a phone, already on a call. On the other end, the stern, ice-cold voice of my father-in-law, Warren Stratton, CEO of Stratton Corporation, boomed through the speaker. "Ethan, you have disappointed me beyond words. The Stratton family name has been dragged to the mud by you, the man who married into it. From this moment on, you are not to leave this house without my permission. I want you to sit here and think long and hard about what you've done. And you better pray Sophia can salvage this mess. Otherwise, this family has no place for a disgrace like you." The line went dead. Sophia coolly took back her phone, looking at me as if I were a piece of trash she was about to dispose of. "You're on your own." With that, she turned and walked away, the sharp clicks of her heels on a marble floor a final, decisive verdict. The two bodyguards took up positions at the front door, my new jailers. The vast mansion was suddenly a gilded cage. I had become the villain of the story, despised by everyone. In the eyes of Sophia and the entire Stratton family, I was just a jealous idiot who had lost his mind and ruined everything. I picked up my now cold tea and took a small sip, feeling the sting on my cheek and the profound chill of being utterly alone. But I wasn't panicked, not in the slightest. A misunderstanding? No, this was exactly what I had planned. Sophia, Leo, and this ridiculous script. The game had just begun. On the third day of my house arrest, the Strattons cut the internet and jammed all cell signals to the mansion. Their plan was to turn me into a deaf and blind man, to slowly grind away my edges in this luxurious prison until I learned to be an obedient dog. Too bad for them. I've never been the type to just sit and wait for my fate. In the dead of night, I retrieved a waterproof bag from a hidden compartment behind the toilet tank. Inside was a satellite phone, my emergency plan, purchased with the last of my personal funds right after I arrived in this world. Online, the story of my glorious deeds had gone viral. Jealous husband's 911 call scuttles billion-dollar deal for Stratton heiress. The Stratton disgrace, a deep dive into Ethan Cole's pathetic rise. The court of public opinion had already convicted me, painting me as an impotent, impulsive, pathetic clown. It was exactly what I wanted. I logged into an anonymous overseas email account I'd set up weeks ago and sent a carefully forged document to Leo Vance's biggest business rival, the chairman of Vanguard Consolidated. The document was a mix of fact and fiction, blackmail material I'd fabricated based on key moments from the original novel's plot about Leo's rise. It included vague transaction records from offshore accounts and fudged project data. The key was the body of the email, which I wrote in the tone of a man pushed to the brink of insanity. My wife, Sophia Stratton, was trying to take Leo Vance down. This is the evidence she spent months gathering. She failed, and now the cops have the real stuff locked away. This is a backup I stole from her computer. I don't care who you are. I just want Leo Vance destroyed. Use this. Ruin him. I don't want anything in return. I just want to see him burn in hell. The image of a man driven mad by betrayal was practically leaping off the screen. Send. Delete all traces. I switched off the sat phone, tucked it back into its hiding spot, and went back to bed as if nothing had happened. Now, all I had to do was wait. Wait for the waters I just stirred up to get good and muddy. The effect was faster than I could have imagined. By the next day, I was piecing together the bloody storm raging outside just by listening to the hushed whispers of the guards at the door. Vanguard Consolidated, like a shark that had smelled blood, had launched an all-out assault on Leo's company. The evidence they released wasn't enough to land him in jail, but every piece of it struck at the heart of his business operations, triggering a massive market panic. The stock price of Leo's company plummeted. Several major partners who had been in negotiations with him immediately pulled out. Even the banks started calling in his loans. He was running around like a headless chicken, putting out fires, with no time to worry about the Southside deal, and certainly no time to get close to Sophia. With a single move, I had successfully dragged a domestic drama into the bloody trenches of corporate warfare. Through the thick walls of the mansion, I could almost hear Leo's enraged, desperate screams. It felt amazing, but my peace didn't last long. That afternoon, I heard the lock on the front door turn. Not the guards. It was Sophia. She came alone, having changed out of her sharp business attire into casual clothes. But her beautiful face was still shrouded in a layer of impenetrable ice. She didn't storm in with the same fury as last time. She just walked over to the sofa across from me and sat down, tossing a copy of the Wall Street Journal onto the coffee table. The headline, in bold print, was about Leo's company being targeted and thrown into crisis. Was this your doing? Her voice was quiet, but it had a piercing analytical edge. I spread my hands, the picture of innocence. I'm locked in here, without even a Wi-Fi signal. What could I possibly do? Sophia's eyes locked onto mine. For the first time, they held no contempt, no anger. Instead, there was a deep, unsettling suspicion. Nathan, you were never like this before, she said slowly. The old you would have just hidden in a corner or come begging to me for help. You would never have had the guts to call the cops, and you certainly wouldn't have the brains to come up with a scheme like this, using someone else to do your dirty work. She paused, leaning forward slightly, her presence suddenly immense. I've seen the information Vanguard is using. It's completely different from my evidence, but the angles of attack are terrifyingly precise. This is not the work of a fool blinded by jealousy. A chill went down my spine. This woman was far more perceptive than I had given her credit for. Just as I was trying to figure out how to respond, the cold, mechanical voice in my head exploded without warning, more severe and urgent than ever before. Warning. Narrative course correction initiated. Host's actions have severely deviated from the useless husband archetype, triggering narrative backlash. Warning. Leo Vance's luck is self-repairing. Backlash effect. Aided by narrative forces, he will trace your anonymous email via digital forensics within 24 hours. Final warning. Leo Vance will present the evidence of your frame-up and form an alliance with the Stratton family. You will be identified as a common enemy and face devastating retaliation. Countdown initiated. In an instant, an icy dread shot up my spine. Luck. It could actually bend the rules of reality, allowing Leo to track me down in such a short amount of time. I hadn't even managed to talk my way out of Sophia's suspicion, and Leo's revenge was already on its way. Enemies on all sides. A checkmate. Looking into Sophia's increasingly sharp eyes, I felt a true sense of crisis for the first time. On the surface, I remained calm, but my heart was hammering against my ribs. Sophia's gaze grew sharper, as if trying to dissect me, to peel back every layer until my true self was exposed. Who are you? Her cold voice echoed in the silent living room, laced with a tremor she herself might not have noticed. Before I could even formulate a plausible lie, she abruptly pulled back her intense stare, leaning against the sofa as if she made a momentous decision. Darkness seeped in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, shrouding her in shadow. Never mind. Who you are doesn't matter anymore. She reached into her Hermes bag and pulled out a black USB drive and a folder, dropping them both onto the cold glass of the coffee table. The soft thud sounded like a slap to my soul. You wanted to destroy him, didn't you? Sophia's eyes were colder than the night outside. This drive contains his kill switch. Everything needed to make sure he never gets back up. My gaze fell on the small drive, my breath catching in my throat. But there's a condition. She slid the folder in front of me. Sign this. After it's done, you walk away with nothing. We're finished. It was a divorce agreement. The terms were spelled out in stark black and white. I would relinquish all claims to marital assets and be thrown out of the Stratton family like a stray dog. So, this was her real purpose tonight. She didn't trust me, so she opted for a direct transaction. Leo Vance's head in exchange for my permanent removal from her life. The moment my fingers were about to touch the USB drive, the golden warning text in my mind flashed again, more blindingly than ever before. Warning: narrative course correction. Leo Vance will acquire core intel on the Cole family's business. In 3 days, Cole Industries would declare bankruptcy. I felt as if I'd been plunged into ice water. Cole Industries. My parents, my family in this life, the system or the world narrative, was so determined to prop up its golden boy, Leo Vance, that it was willing to attack my family halfway across the country. One path was a humiliating trap set by my wife. The other was a complete ruin of my family in 3 days. Both were dead ends. Sophia watched my frozen posture, a mocking smile touching her lips. What's the matter? Scared? Is your pathetic pride more important than taking down Leo Vance? I slowly lifted my head to meet her icy gaze, but a smile spread across my face. Deal. I picked up the pen and, without even glancing at the agreement's contents, signed Ethan Cole at the bottom with a flourish. A flicker of surprise crossed Sophia's eyes. She hadn't expected me to agree so readily. I pushed the signed agreement back toward her, but kept my hand on it. However, I have a condition of my own. What? I spoke each word with deliberate clarity. When this is over, control of Stratton Corporation belongs to me. It was as if a bomb had gone off in Sophia's head. She shot to her feet, that perpetually frozen face finally cracking with utter disbelief. She stared at me as if I were a madman. What did you say? I said. I leaned back on the sofa, my posture more relaxed than ever, but my eyes filled with predatory intent. I want Stratton Corporation. You're taking down Leo for yourself and for your family. I'm helping you. In return, I take the whole company. Seems fair. A useless husband, a man who married for money, was now demanding control of a multi-billion-dollar empire? It was beyond absurd. Sophia stared at me, a war of emotions in her eyes. After a long moment, she laughed. It was a cold, chilling sound, tinged with the desperation of someone with nothing left to lose. Fine. I agree. She sat back down, her queen-like composure restored. If you have what it takes to take it. She agreed, because in her mind it was an impossible task. She just wanted to use me as a weapon. Afterward, whether that weapon was broken, insane, or dead was no concern of hers. I took the USB drive and plugged it into a laptop I'd retrieved from a toilet tank. It was an encrypted file. The password was our wedding anniversary. Ironic. The file opened and my eyes widened. Inside was a chain of evidence, so complete it was terrifying. It detailed exactly how Leo Vance had used a network of offshore shell companies to launder money for a mysterious and powerful organization. Accounts, transaction records, contact names. There were even a few grainy videos. If this got out, it wouldn't matter if he was Destiny's golden boy. Not even God could save him. But I felt no joy. I knew how terrifying the power of the narrative course correction was. Before I could ever use this evidence, my family would be destroyed. I couldn't use it directly. A wild, audacious smile curved my lips. If the narrative wanted to hand Leo a core secret about my family, then I would prepare one for him myself. I opened a new document, and my hands flew across the keyboard. An hour later, a forged but utterly convincing Cole Industries core secret was ready. It detailed a breakthrough semiconductor technology from my family's tech division, complete with what appeared to be a flawless business expansion plan. Any investor would go crazy for it. But only I knew that I had altered a key parameter in the technology's core specifications by 1,000%. It wasn't a ladder to heaven. It was a one-way ticket to hell. I sent this gift through an untraceable channel, straight to its intended target, Leo Vance. I hope you like the opportunity I've arranged for you, golden boy. Leo's luck was more insidious than I ever imagined. In just 2 days, the storm broke with the force of a thunderbolt, crashing down directly on my head. The first to crumble was my family, halfway across the country. Ethan, who in God's name did you piss off out there? On the phone, my father's normally steady voice was, for the first time, laced with sheer panic and rage. Every single one of the company's bank accounts has been frozen. The IRS and the SEC are swarming the building, claiming we're involved in massive tax evasion and insider trading. The stock hit rock bottom the second the market opened. It's over, Ethan. Everything is over. Holding the phone, I could hear my mother's muffled sobs and the chaotic shouts of employees in the background. This was the system's warning. This was the Golden Boy's backlash. It didn't operate on logic or evidence. It simply brought down destruction like an act of God. Leo had not only received the fake intel I'd sent him, but, with the help of his luck, had actually reverse-engineered a trail back to my clandestine activities. He took this proof straight to the Stratton family, specifically to the uncles who had long coveted my father-in-law's position. A hunt, with me as a prey, was instantly set in motion. The opposing faction within the Stratton family, allied with Leo Vance, launched a full-scale assault on coal industries, complete with a vicious media smear campaign. I had become a pawn in a game between two powerful families, a piece to be sacrificed without a second thought. The mansion door was thrown open. Sophia burst in, not even taking a moment to shed the Chanel coat she'd clearly been wearing all day. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. That gaze, usually as cold as frost, was now burning with desperation and the fire of betrayal. Ethan! She rushed toward me, her voice trembling. Control of Stratton Corporation. Was this what you wanted? You dragged my family and yours down to hell, all for an empty promise you could never cash in. She raised her hand, as if to strike me again, but her wrist froze in midair before falling limply to her side. I was a fool. She stared at me, each word forced through gritted teeth. I actually trusted a greedy, delusional maniac like you. We're finished. Leo and my uncle have joined forces. They're calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning to oust my father. Our alliance, before it had even truly begun, was shattered by my apparent greed. The look in her eyes was no longer contempt or anger. It was a complete and utter disappointment of someone who had seen through all my delusions. She believed my absurd ambition had destroyed everything. The massive living room was deathly quiet. I could feel my world disintegrating. My parents' cries, my company's collapse, Sophia's despair, 3 mountains pressing down, threatening to crush me. In everyone's eyes, I had lost, utterly and completely. I looked at her pained face, slowly stood up, and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, the night was a black, endless void. Do you remember the USB drive you gave me? I asked softly, my voice unnervingly calm. Sophia froze, confused by the sudden change of topic. Yes, it was my last resort. It's useless now. Her tone was thick with self-mockery. No, it's very useful. I turned back to her, pulled a new, clean phone from my pocket, and dialed a number I knew by heart, right in front of her. The call was picked up almost immediately. FBI, Economic Crimes. How can I help you? Hello, my name is Ethan Cole. I'd like to make a formal report. Sophia's eyes widened. Ignoring her shock, I spoke into the phone, each word clear and deliberate. I'm reporting Leo Vance, founder of Vance Capital, for suspected large-scale money laundering on behalf of an unidentified foreign entity. I have the evidence in my possession. Oh, and one more thing. I paused, a cold smile touching my lips. I'm also reporting him for malicious market manipulation and attempting to destabilize the domestic semiconductor industry using illegally obtained core secrets from coal industries. I have witnesses and proof. I ended the call. The world seemed to fall silent. Sophia just stared at me, her beautiful face a canvas of confusion and disbelief. She couldn't understand why I would play this card now, when we were supposedly cornered and defeated. I didn't explain. I just turned on the massive television in the living room and switched it to Bloomberg. For the next hour, she and I sat there in the silent room, watching the storm change direction. At 10 p.m. sharp, a breaking news alert detonated across the financial world. Breaking. Vance Capital founder Leo Vance taken into federal custody in connection with multiple serious financial crimes. On the screen, Leo was being escorted out of his corporate headquarters by a swarm of federal agents. The confident swagger of Destiny's golden boy was gone, replaced by a look of wild, uncomprehending horror. His eyes seemed to bore through the screen, locking onto me, filled with pure hatred. He would go to his grave never understanding why the luck he had relied on was so fragile in the face of cold, hard evidence. He would never understand why the secret I had given him had become the very knife I used to stab him in the heart. At the press conference, officials from the FBI and the SEC presented two sets of evidence. The first was a complete, undeniable trail of Leo's money laundering operation. The second was a full record of how he had used the fraudulent coal industry's secret to manipulate the market and rake in fortune. With both crimes laid bare, not even a miracle could save him. Leo and the Stratton uncles who had backed him were instantly annihilated. On television, my uncle-in-law's face was a deathly white. I picked up my phone and dialed another number. Start now. Use every dollar we have to buy up all the Stratton Corp stock you can from the retail investors. Yes, the ones who followed Leo off a cliff and got wiped out. After the storm, there would be wreckage, and I would be the only one there to pick up the pieces. The only sound in the living room was the excited voice of the news anchor. I turned off the TV and looked back at Sophia. She was still standing in the same spot, motionless as a statue. The tablet in her hand had slipped and fallen onto the rug, its screen still displaying the stock prices of the rival Stratton faction, now in a catastrophic freefall. Finally, she looked up. Those eyes, once cold, angry, and desperate, now held nothing but profound, complex shock. She looked at me, her lips trembling, as if she wanted to speak, but couldn't form the words. She finally understood, from the moment I signed that divorce agreement, and said, "I want Stratton Corporation." I wasn't dreaming an impossible dream. I was playing a game of chess. With her, a game where I had bet everything, including her. I just watched her, this woman who had always been so high above me, who had seen me as nothing more than trash, finally showing such a crack in her flawless facade. Just as I was about to speak, to shatter the last of her doubts, the cold, mechanical voice in my head sounded off one last time. But this time, it wasn't a sharp warning. It was a flat, emotionless statement, like a final mission report. Target Leo Vance eliminated. Mission failed. Initiating final protocol. Analyzing variable data. Analysis complete. To the variable, Ethan Cole, this program is not a system of fate. Designation, Woodpecker. Implanted in original host's brain by the Leviathan Consortium. Primary objective. Manipulate host to cooperate with asset Leo Vance to facilitate the hostile takeover of coal industries and Stratton Corporation. Your intervention has resulted in a catastrophic failure of core logic. Mission failure probability, 100%. Program will now self-destruct. Final warning. Leviathan has flagged you as a highest priority threat. They will find you. They will eliminate you. Good luck. The stream of ice-cold information washed over my consciousness like a digital waterfall. I felt no anger, no fear, just the clarity of a sky after a storm. So that was it. There was no destiny, no golden boy chosen by fate. It was all just an elaborate corporate espionage scheme, a massive trap set to plunder wealth. Leo was a puppet on the stage, and I, the man with the program in his head, was supposed to be the unassuming inside man who brought it all down from within. As the final good luck faded, the constant feeling of being watched, a pressure that had been in my head for months, vanished. The world was quiet, truly quiet. I slowly looked up, my gaze falling on the divorce agreement Sophia had printed out, still sitting on the coffee table. She had recovered, her eyes a complex mix of emotions as she looked at me, her lips parted. "Ethan, you—" I didn't let her finish. I walked over and picked up the agreement. My signature was there, bold and confident, a final mockery of our humiliating marriage. Sophia tensed, thinking I was about to cash in my winnings. R.I.P. The crisp sound of tearing paper was shockingly loud in the silent room. Right in front of her, I tore the agreement in half, then into quarters, then eighths, until it was nothing but a pile of meaningless scraps, which I casually tossed into the trash. Sophia's pupils dilated. She stared at me, then at the shredded paper in the bin, her face a portrait of utter disbelief. "But you said you wanted Stratton Corporation," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What I wanted was never a cold, heartless company." I stepped closer to her. For the first time, I was meeting her gaze as an equal, not looking up from below. "I just wanted to make you, and everyone else who looked down on me, understand something," I said, my voice soft but firm. "I, Ethan Cole, have earned the right to stand beside you, not as a Stratton family's charity case, but as your husband." She was stunned. Under the soft light of the living room, the icy shell she always wore was cracking, shattering piece by piece. She finally understood my entire strategy. From the moment I called the police, I wasn't acting out of jealousy or madness. I was using the most explosive method possible to shatter the script that had imprisoned me, forcing everyone to look at the useless man in the corner. Then I used their momentum, their assumptions, their plans against them. I was betting on her intelligence, that she would see the inconsistencies. I was betting on her decisiveness, that she would play her final card to take down Leo. And most of all, I was betting on myself, that I could steer the ship through the heart of the storm without capsizing. I won. Leo is gone, but he was just a pawn, I said, my expression turning serious. The people behind him won't just let this go. The real war is just beginning. Sophia was silent for a long moment. Then she turned, walked to her study, and returned with her laptop, placing it in front of me. The data on Leo's money laundering. I have a more detailed copy of the source code from the server. She looked up, and her beautiful eyes, once filled with ice, now shone with a brilliant light of trust and determination. "Let's work together," she said, "and let's tear them out by the roots." In that moment, I knew I hadn't just saved my family and shredded the script. I had truly won her heart. The following month was quiet on the surface, but turbulent beneath. Sophia and I pooled the full resources of the Cole and Stratton families. Following the thread Leo had left behind, we began to hunt, moving with the patience of predators. Starting with an encrypted offshore server address, we uncovered a vast money laundering network hidden on the deep web. By tracing the flow of money, we zeroed in on a multinational investment consortium called Leviathan. They were like a monster of the deep, silently devouring one company after another, just like they had planned for ours. The end game came at a global financial summit in Geneva. Sophia and I took the stage together. In front of the world's media, we laid out all of it. The complete evidence of how the Leviathan Consortium used advanced neural programming and corporate espionage to manipulate executives and orchestrate hostile takeovers. The proof was irrefutable. The hidden predator of the corporate world was dragged into the light and brought to justice. After the storm passed, Sophia and I stood on the mansion's terrace, looking out at the glittering cityscape. "Don't you ever do anything that dangerous again," she murmured, leaning her head on my shoulder, her voice tinged with the memory of fear. I smiled, wrapping my arm around her and pulling her close. "Deal," I said. I knew the world's script had been completely rewritten, and I had finally become the protagonist of my own life, with my wife by my side.